Discussion on behalf of ISKCON Farmington Hills today morning. I hope everyone is happy in Krishna consciousness. Before we begin the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, let's say our prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Nara Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishchikim. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. So today we are continuing with discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3, Chapter 20, and the verse today is 29. And this is a conversation that's continuing to happen between Maitreya Rishi and Vidura. The verse goes like this. Tam kvanaccharanam bhojam mada vihvalalocanam Kanchi kalapa vilasad dhukula channarodasam Tam kvanaccharanam bhojam mada vihvalalocanam Kanchi kalapa vilasad dhukula channarodasam Tam kvanaccharanam bhojam mada vihvalalocanam Kanchi kalapa vilasad dhukula channarodasam. The synonyms. Tam, that body. Kvanat, tinkling with ankle bells. Charana ambhojam, with lotus feet. Mada, intoxication. Vihvala, overwhelmed. Lochanam, with eyes. Kanchi kalapa, with a girdle made of golden ornaments. Vilasat, shining. Dukula, by fine cloth. Channa, covered. Rodasam, having hips. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. The body given up by Brahma took the form of the evening twilight, when the day and night meet, a time which kindles passion. The asuras, who are passionate by nature, dominated as they are by the elements of rajas, took it for a damsel, whose lotus feet resounded with the tinkling of anklets, whose eyes were wide with intoxication, and whose hips were covered by fine cloth, over which shone a girdle. And purport. As early morning is the period of spiritual cultivation, the beginning of evening is the period of passion. Demoniac men are generally very fond of sex enjoyment. Therefore, they very much appreciate the approach of evening. The demons took the approach of the evening twilight to be a beautiful woman, and they began to adore her in various ways. They imagined the twilight to be a very beautiful woman with twinkling bangles on her feet, a girdle on her hips, and beautiful breasts, and for their sexual satisfaction, they imagined the appearance of this beautiful girl before them. Before we could begin discussion on this verse, let's take blessings from all the assembled Vaishnavas, all the Acharyas in the Guru Parampara. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चना गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्णा चैतन्या प्रभो नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौरभक्तवृन्द। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. As we, before continuing this discussion on this special verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, I want to thank and take blessings from all of you, and thank the temple authorities for giving me an opportunity to take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam as I was trying to prepare for this class. Also, I want to pray that may this discussion glorify Shri Shri Radha Gopijana Vallabha so wonderfully that will bring pleasure to the hearts of all the assembled Vaishnavas. May that be the focus of the discussion today. So one more time, the translation goes: the body given up by Brahma took the form of the evening twilight, when the day and night meet, a time which kindles passion. The asuras, who are passionate by nature, dominated as they are by the element of rajas, took it for a damsel, whose lotus feet resounded with the twinkling of anklets, whose eyes were wide with intoxication, and whose hips were covered by fine cloth over which shone a girdle. So they imagined. So these few days of discussion has been really strong, where Lord Brahma is, there are some secondary creations happening, and then he's giving up that body, not being satisfied with what consequences were taking place. But every time he's in a problem, what did we see? That he was taking shelter of the Supreme Lord for guidance. And in just the previous verse yesterday, very nicely enlightened by Sri Prahlad Prabhuji, he said how Lord Brahma took shelter of the Lord, and the Lord, Supreme Lord Vishnu, replied to Brahmaji saying that, cast away that body. And when Lord Brahma cast away that body of ignorance, and that body took the form of evening twilight. So that's where we are. And what happened when they saw this evening twilight? The asuras imagined that being a very beautiful lady, and their passionate nature got more aroused seeing her. And this was their reaction to the twilight that they saw when the body of Lord Brahma was cast away. And in the purport, we see very nicely how Srila Prabhupada explained, they imagined the twilight to be a very beautiful woman. So they're imagining like how the mind, we know when Chaitanya Charan Prabhu very nicely explains the acronym of mind, where he says M stands for how M magnifies the mind, magnifies the problems, and for I, it imagines pleasure. So here we see the asuric mentality. They are imagining the situation to be a beautiful woman. And N stands for how we neglect opportunities, and D stands for denial of reality. So when we don't take shelter of the Lord, how we can get misguided. Moving further into that discussion, as I was reflecting on this part, this beautiful shloka in Bhagavad Gita came up, saying that the whole 16th chapter, where the Lord is giving us all the descriptions of the divine and the demoniac natures. So only the first shloka is full of description of the divine qualities. The Lord gives a whole list. And then this part where he says, O son of Pritha, in this world there are two kinds of created beings. One is called divine and the other is demoniac. So this was very significant. The whole chapter, the Bhagavad Gita, the whole of 16th chapter describes these demoniac tendencies, when what happens and how do they behave and what is their nature and what is their focus and what is the result of in going in that direction. Dhambo dharpo bhimanascha krodah paurushameva cha ajnanam cha vijatasya partha sampadamasurim. Pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness and ignorance. These qualities belong to those of demoniac nature. So we could see that ignorance, because of which they are imagining the twilight to be a beautiful woman. So Krishna is explaining in this Bhagavad Gita, the whole 16th chapter, whenever each of us have time. We could just read even the translations when we read and go in the Veda base. It's so beautiful, like how in such detail the Lord is explaining the mode of ignorance and how the demons think and how they react and how they want to enjoy separate from the Lord. That mentality of the demoniac mentality is very well explained by the Lord. And the Lord actually gives assurance to Arjuna that you're not demoniac, by the way. And then he starts. So we can see that loving dealings always when Lord Krishna is sharing this knowledge with, when he's enlightening Arjuna on these topics. He assures him and then he continues, but I just want you to know what those demoniac characteristics are. So I thought the focus of that divine and demoniac in that purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that demoniac nature, the mainly it is because of the obedience to regulative principles of scriptures are not followed. So when we don't follow the regulative principles of scriptures, that's where the demoniac nature sprouts up. So the real sense, the real root of demoniac mentality is our inner choice of the soul, to be for Krishna or against Krishna. So all other choices are just the result of the foundational one of being for or against Krishna. So thus the divine and demoniac natures ultimately reflect the soul's inner direction towards Krishna. These words were very powerful because we want to take lessons like the whole Bhagavatam. If we see, every verse is amazing because and so important. It's like a crash course already in itself, because it's just 7 days for Parikshit Maharaj and he's taking shelter of each verse and each message that's being spoken to him. So he's having a really short time. That means every verse is so important for us. And similar, when Arjuna was in the problematic situation, just those few hours before the war was ready to happen. So the Lord is speaking the whole explanation on demoniac nature as the 16th chapter. So that is that important for us to understand what's divine and demoniac, because we need to know the do's and the don'ts so we don't make the wrong choices in life. So always our path has choices. So spiritual journey also has choices. So the choice that we make is what decides the path that we are going to take, the divine path or the demoniac path. So keeping that in mind, even though some of the verses are very challenging to discuss and brings a lot of anxiety in our heart, even just reading those verses, but the importance is so important because if we are not warned enough about these dangers, at every step, how we say padam padam yad vipadam natesham, every step is a danger in this material world. If we do not understand that seriousness of the problems that we are going to face and how we should tackle, how we should not behave in the demoniac way, that is what the focus of this verse today that we are discussing is going to be. So since we are discussing both divine and demoniac, so let's also see what the Lord, Supreme Lord, says in the first verse of this chapter 16, when he's saying, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhir Jnana Yoga Vyavasthithi Dhanam dhamaschayo yajñascha swadhyayastapa arjavam ahimsa satyamakrodas tyagashantirapayishunam daya bhuteshva aloluptvam madhavam harirachapalam tejakshamadratis shaucham adroho natimanita bhavanti sampadam daivim abhijatasya bharata. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy and from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharata, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature. So Lord Krishna summarizes the whole divine qualities in just the first three verses of this chapter. Moving further, like as we are discussing, so I thought we always meet at the crossroads, right? As we were mentioning, of making choice between what's the right action and what's not the right thing to do. So let's see some more examples of how we can help ourselves when we make these choices. There are many examples in the scriptures where here is Vishwamitra Muni, who was also performing a lot of austerities for some other purpose which was not directed for love of Godhead, and he got allured like by Menaka. And Menaka was also a very beautiful Apsara who was sent by Indra, and she actually emerged when the Samudra Manthan pastime was happening. So she was sent to disrupt his penances. So we see in the scriptures how Vishwamitra did get disturbed by Menaka's intervention when he's performing his penances, and all his austerities went into vain. So there is that where we see even in our journey that we can get distracted in these situations. And there is also examples of Pururava and Urvashi, where Urvashi got attracted to Pururava being a very valor king, and he was they had a nice life, but then again when she left, he was feeling so miserable, and there was also no picture of the Supreme Lord in that whole story. So the ending was not very nice. So, and then we also see again when Arjuna went to Indra's court after he got that nice invitation from Indra to come, and again he met Urvashi. Actually, Urvashi approached him in a different relationship, but Arjuna denied being able to focus himself, seeing that she had a relationship with Pururava, who is his ancestor. So she is like a worshipable mother. So even though he acted right, he even got cursed for it. The Urvashi curses him to become a eunuch, which is very terrible for a warrior, for a kingly person like Arjuna, like to even get that curse. But that eventually even transferred into a blessing during the Rajñatavas. So, but Arjuna's focus, like his devotion to Lord Krishna, protected him through this difficult situation. So we are trying to discuss situations where they were not basically demoniac, but they did fall prey for the attraction between opposite sex. So how do we help ourselves as we live our daily lives, and how do we protect our devotion in this Kali Yuga? So that's our focus of discussion. So we can see some more examples. Everybody knows Bilva Mangal Thakur. He here is a very nice picture where we see that he is singing the Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, and he's absorbed in the thoughts of the Lord, and Lord Krishna is actually sitting in front of him. He does not have his eyes. So how this situation happened, we see in his before becoming Bilva Mangal Thakur, in his youth, he was attracted to this prostitute Chintamani, and as the story goes, when he actually took a lot of effort, even when his father passed away, like even before he lit the funeral pyre of his father, and he was in so much intoxicated in thoughts of Chintamani that even before the fire was subdued, like still the fire was up, the father's funeral fire, but he, in the storm of the night, he goes to meet Chintamani, and he goes through a lot of struggle to cross over the river and go to her house. And it was really stormy night, and he knocks at the door and nobody opens, and there is a rope which actually is a cobra snake, poisonous cobra snakes. He takes it to be a rope, and he actually takes help of the snake to climb over to meet Chintamani. And when Chintamani sees that the endeavor that Bilomangal Thakur he puts to meet her, she says that if you had this intensity and this endeavor for Krishna Bhakti, you would be such a wonderful devotee. In that way, Chintamani actually becomes the guru of Bilomangal Thakur. So that strikes his heart so deep, and he takes that message so seriously, and his life transforms, and he comes, his journey takes him to Vrindavan, where he comes in search of the Lord. So in his journey also, like, not that the whole lust is gone off. So when he goes to beg alms from house of a Brahmana, when the lady of the house comes to give alms, and when he's accepting, just the glance looking at the lady of the house, his desire of lust comes back, and he feels so terrible at just that thought, that it's just not leaving me. Like sometimes we devotees feel like, I really want to change, but there is something that's just pulling me back. It's just pulling me to my lower nature. So that's where we can see the determination of Bilomangal Thakur. He asks for the hair clips of the lady of the house, and he says, Mother, can you give me the hair clips? And he just pokes off his eyes. Can we even think of doing something like that? So that act of his, like he said, these eyes are just blinding me, and it's taking me in the wrong direction. I just don't even want to see anything of this material world. And then he actually composes, like his compositions are so much. It is said that his compositions have been a baseline for many of our acharyas, and the six Goswamis, where they write about the Vipralamba Bhav and the glories of Srimati Radharani being the highest. And that kind of whole devotion is from many of his books and writings. We get it. And this is all because he took shelter of the Supreme Lord. So these examples help us say that there will be problems in our life, there will be distractions in our lives, and there will be situations where our lower nature is being kindled. But we, with the help of the Lord's blessings and prayers, we have to pray to the Lord earnestly that, Lord, I'm going through this feeling is really killing me, please help me. The prayers, and with the association of devotees, with the Sangha, we will be able to overcome it. So how does the Lord say in 7th chapter, Daivi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya Mama Mameva Ye Prapadyante Mayam Etam Tarantite. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So, Mam eva ye prapadyante, those who have surrendered unto me. So that is our key and our hope in this whole endeavor. So, but the endeavor is our part, but that we want to endeavor with Krishna's mercy. And with Krishna's mercy, always the two fingers that we discuss about in our Damodar Leela pastimes. So we should not give up that endeavor. And how will we not give up that endeavor? Being in the association of the devotees. So there is another, this pastime is like beyond our understanding, in a sense, saying that the purity of Haridas Thakur is so much, that his shelter in the holy name is so much, that Maya Devi personified herself when she comes to allure Haridas Thakur. Nothing happens. She gets transformed. She becomes a disciple of Haridas Thakur. So that's the intense shelter that Haridas Thakur takes while he's chanting. Not just the numbers matter, but the shelter that we take in the chanting process. So the numbers actually matters when we are taking shelter, that taste already develops. So we are not able to stop chanting. So how Bilvamangal Thakur, when his intensity to meet Chintamani was so much that he was willing to take any risk, and he's willing to go back to do anything to go meet her. So when our greed, our laulyam in the right direction, when it increases, our laulyam for Krishna's holy name increases, that's what happens to our state of mind, which transforms to be our friend. And like Haridas Thakur, the tongue needed to be held, right? Like it can't stop chanting. And we wish and pray for this day to come in our lives, right? Each one of us really want to chant with that love, that just want to keep chanting. This happens when we hear more and more of such devotees' pastimes and follow in their footsteps. So moving further, there is this very nice example also in Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, where there are 12 alvars. So one of every alvar is like our we have Goswamis, and they are like them, very exalted devotees of the Lord, and he is the 10th alvar. His name is Tondaradi Podi Alvar. I'll explain what that name means. So he was actually born in a very Vaishnavite family. Like he was born in already a devoted family. His father's name was Veda Visharadhar. And sometimes we have this family name. Their family name was Vipra. Vipra actually represents, what it means is their routine work was to glorify the Supreme Lord in the temple. Like they would go and sing hymns in the glorification of the Lord. So their family name was Vipra. So his father, when this beautiful child was born, he named him Vipra Narayana. So he can always glorify and always sing the praise of Lord Narayana. So such a special child was born in the beautiful family of Vaishnavas. So this child was raised very nicely, and he was always affectionate. This child grew up in a very protected devotional environment. So our bhakti, like how Brahmanda Brahmite Khona Bhagyavan Jiva, we are those Bhagyavan Jivas who have got those seed of devotion. And now then we are in a protected environment. We are in the shelter of Srila Prabhupada, within ISKCON. We are very protected, actually speaking. And that Bhakti Lata Bij is growing like this Alvar, Vipra Narayana. It's very nicely growing. We are taught all the nice principles of how to do devotional service, how to chant, how to follow the regulative principles. So we are happy and blissful when we are in the temple, like Vipra Narayana when he was with his father performing his devotional service. And then he sets out. When he grows up, he sets out, and he actually, the whole story goes in such a way that he wants to visit all the Divya Deshams, all the great places, pilgrimage places, and he wanted to go to every temple and glorify the Supreme Lord. So he starts off with Sri Rangam. So the head temple of Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, the Sri Rangam temple, he goes and he sees Ranganath lying beautifully on Adishesh. And when he sees the Lord, his heart just overwhelms with love and affection and gratitude and so much of happiness that he says that I don't want to go anywhere now. I am so happy right here, and I want to do Kainkaryam, I want to do Seva to Ranganath. So what he does, he makes a beautiful Nandavanam, beautiful flower garden he makes for the Lord, where he grows nice fragrant flowers for the worship of Ranganath. So every day he is, you could see in this picture also, like in the Vigraha Murti, Archa Vigraha Murti of Tondaradi Podi where he has a flower basket hanging there. So that was his primary loving duty that he wanted, the service that he wanted to render to Sri Ranganath. So he had this beautiful flower garden, and he would grow nice fragrant flowers, and every day he would make garlands from those flowers and offer to Lord Ranganath and sing amazing and wonderful, beautiful hymns glorifying the Lord. So this was his daily routine. So life was going very nicely, like how most of us go to the temple, we worship, we have some little services that we do, and we enjoy actually doing our services. We are so happy, and we look forward for those services, and it's so nice just being in the temple and doing those services and fully absorbed. But then there came a difficulty. There came that problem situation. What happened? There was this two women whose name was Deva and Devadasi. So Devi and Devadevi. So these two sisters, their profession was to dance in the king's courtyard. So they happened to come to Srirangam. In that king's courtyard, they danced, and after they finished, they got a lot of gifts from the king. He was very pleased by their performances. He showered them with gifts. They took those gifts. They were nice people. So they came to the Darshan of Ranganath. So on their way, when they were passing by, this fragrance from this garden was so intoxicating and so fragrant that Deva Devi, the second sister, the younger sister, she said, I'm so pulled by this garden's fragrance, and I really want to go see who is taking care of this garden so nicely. So she goes inside along with the elder sister, and they tour the garden, and they come to know this person called Vipranarayana, who's so dedicated. He has no other thoughts, and he's so respectful to all the Vaishnavas, to every soul. He's by nature, like he's a born devotee in the family of devotees. So his nature is so attractive in itself. So he welcomes them, he shows the garden, he says the purpose of the garden, and he says his seva to the Lord is to offer these fragrant flowers to Lord Ranganath. So Devadevi gets so attracted to Vipranarayana, and she starts actually staying back. She says to her sister, please, you go back home. I want to stay back and serve Lord Ranganath with Vipranarayana. So that was her mood in the first place. So she starts serving by the side of Vipranarayana, helping him grow the flowers, pluck the flowers, make garlands. But the Lord's plan was something different. So eventually Vipranarayana gets attracted to Devi's the service attitude, and they end up getting married. And one day, after many years, Devi says that I am missing my mother, so I would like to go meet my mother and sister. And Vipranarayana says, I will also accompany you. So she says, yes, it's okay, let's go meet them. So they go, and when they go to the mother's house, the mother is very disgusted and angry, and she welcomes the girl, but not Vipranarayana. She says, you are just nothing Brahmana. Like, you don't have any positions, and I don't even want to welcome you home. And she sends him away with very strong language, not having positions. So that hurts Vipranarayana so much, and he just goes in the outside on the street and sits under a tree thinking, what do I do now, my Lord? And he's just feeling dejected, that he's feeling that now he cannot even meet his wife, he has come away from the temple. So all that, he's in a difficult situation, and the Lord is watching all this, Ranganath. So he takes a form of a little boy, like an assistant to Vipranarayana, and he brings a big silver vessel, and he brings that to the house of Devadevi, and he gives it to the mother-in-law, and he says that I am a servant of Vipranarayana, so please accept this silver vessel on his behalf. And Devadevi's mother gets very happy, and she's like, wow, he's rich enough to have this big silver bowl. This is very nice. And the situation gets taken care. But what happens in the Srirangam temple? The silver vessel of Ranganath is missing. So when the silver vessel of Ranganath is missing, and the head priest goes and complains to the king, and when the king's men come around searching, they find out that it was Vipranarayana's so-called servant who gave the silver vessel to his mother-in-law, and he gets prisoned. So Vipranarayana is put into the prison. And in that prison situation, Vipranarayana is alone, he's grieving, and he's like, he doesn't even know what happened in between. How did the silver vessel come, and how did it go to the mother-in-law? He has no idea. He just got imprisoned by the king's servants. So Vipranarayana is crying. And where does he take shelter? So most of us, when we go through situations, sometimes we don't even know why we are suffering for what we are suffering. So most of the times we want to track back. Which was that mosquito which bit me that caused malaria? So that's not going to happen, right? So similarly, like tracing back, what did I do wrong that brought me here is not a wise question to ask. But we are in the problematic situation is the reality of life. So what did Vipranarayana do? He earnestly prayed to the Lord, oh Ranganath, please protect me. I don't know for what mistakes I did. I even abandon the service to you, and what is my situation that I am in this jail sitting here, and for what mistake also I have no idea, but please protect my devotion, my Lord. He was earnestly begging to the Lord, and Ranganath's heart softened so much seeing beautiful crying prayers of Vipranarayana, that he reveals the truth to the priest in his heart, saying that it was me who did this whole pastime. And then the priest conveys this to the king, and the king feels, Hare Krishna, what a big mistake has happened. This is a great devotee of the Lord. And the Lord has personally intervened in his life. So the king asks for forgiveness, and Vipranarayana comes back. He is released. Now, after Vipranarayana is released, what did he do? That is a lesson for you and me, dear devotees. So when so-called miseries affect us, we run to take shelter of the Lord. And when those, with the Lord's mercy, when those miseries are released, what should we be doing? We should run to the Lord. We should run to the Lord's temple, and we should fall at the feet. So Vipranarayana went and fell at the feet of each and every devotee in the temple. He took the dust from their lotus feet and put it on his head. That is how it is called. His name changed to Tondar. Tondar means Vaishnavas. Adi Podi means the dust of their lotus feet. He took the dust of the lotus feet of each and every Vaishnava and put it on his head. So his name was changed into Tondar Adi Podi Alvar. Tondar Adi Podi Alvar ki jai. So if we translate it, it's like Vaishnava Pada Renu Das. So he became Vaishnava Pada Renu Das forever, to be known as those great Alvar who showed us by his personal example that the miseries do come and they allure us because of our past problematic situations that we have went through, or if it is the Leela of the Lord, or whatever be the situation be. But then after what do we do when these kind of situations happen in life? We run to take shelter of the Lord and his devotees. So we learn a great lesson from the life of Tondaradi Pudi Alvar. And this is in Srimad Bhagavatam. To come to a conclusion, we can say that this is a very beautiful verse in Srimad Bhagavatam 8.9.28. It goes like this: Evam sura sura gana samadesha kala hitvartha karma matayopi phale vikalpa Tatramritam suragana phalam manjas agnyasapur yatpada pankajaraja dhaitya. This verse is so amazing because the place, the time, the cause, the purpose, the activity, and the ambition were all the same. The place, the time, the cause, the purpose, the activity, all the same for whom? Both the demons and the demigods. But the demigods achieved one result and the demons achieved another one. Why? Because the demigods are always under the shelter of the dust of the Lord's lotus feet. That's the glory of the dust of the Lord's lotus feet. They could very easily drink the nectar and get its result. The demons, however, not having sought shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, were unable to achieve the results they desired. How nicely Shukadeva Goswami summarizes this pastime for us. So even though the activities that may look the same, the place may be the same, we are in this material world, the time is the same, the cause, the purpose, the activity, and the ambition was also same for them to get the nectar. But just because the demigods took shelter of the Supreme Lord and followed his instructions, he even gave instructions where the Lord says how you should talk to the demons, how you should respond when they say things, you should not get angry. That chapter is really amazing when you read how the Lord personally even says how they should answer each questions, how the demons ask. Like they agitate him by saying, oh, you don't have even strength, we will take to the head side and you catch the tail. You are not that strong enough. Like they deride them, and the Lord says, just with patience, just accept it, it's okay. So they accepted the Lord's advice. So when they accepted, they very easily got the nectar. So this is a great lesson for us to learn, that taking shelter of the Lord, akama sarvakama va moksha kama udarati tivrena bhakti yogena vrajeta purusham param. So whatever be no kama or akama or sarvakama va, whatever be that desire, if we take shelter of the Lord, it's all blissful and spiritual life. So, and what is that surrender? In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami very nicely says, Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshasiti vishvaso goptritve varnanam tata atmanikshepa karpanye sadvidha sharanagati. The 6 divisions of surrender are the acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service, So we accept whatever is favorable. So in every situation, when we are in that crossroads of to accept this decision or to make this decision, not make a decision, what is that cutoff point should be? Is this favorable for my devotional service? And we got to reject those options, that path that is not favorable for our devotional service. And that conviction, when we take that decision based on favorable to devotional service, that conviction that Krishna will give protection, Rakshati iti Vishwa. So that Vishwas that we have, the faith that yes, Krishna is my master and my most loving friend, and he knows everything. So when we have that faith, the acceptance of Lord as one's guardian or master, full surrender and humility. So these are some points that can guide us always when we are in those crossroads to make major, doesn't have to be a major decision, it could be a decision on a daily basis that we make. So Srila Prabhupada, in this very nice letter, he writes, the more you make advancement in Krishna consciousness, the more you will see Krishna everywhere. Not only on the bank of the river, but also on the streets, lampposts, and so on. Very nice, right? The more you see like that, you know you are making tangible advancement in Krishna consciousness. Actually, there is nothing but Krishna all around us. This is explained in the Gita. He is the taste of water, light of the moon, the fragrance of the flower, light of the sun, sound of the sky, the power of the strong, and so on. So one who is making progress in Krishna consciousness, he can see Krishna everywhere, at every stage of life. Who can avoid the sunlight, the moonlight, the fragrance of the flower, the taste of the water, the sound of the sky, and so on? But one has to learn it, that there is Krishna in all these varieties of existence. Without Krishna, there is nothing. Amazing letter that Srila Prabhupada, every letter is instructions that Srila Prabhupada has given us, and we are so blessed to have our founder Acharya. And I want to end this discussion by saying that we always must have a prayer. So in my this short life, always in my house, coming from Vaishnava family, there was always recitation of prayers. And from young, there has been Mukundamala Stotram from my grandfather. He would say that when he would rock our cradles, this is the shlokas that he sang always for all the grandkids. And so he would say that Nastha dharme nava sunichaye naiva kamopabhoge yaddad bhavyam bhavatu bhagavan purva karmanu rupam etat pratyam mama bahumatam janma janmantarepi Tvatpadambo ruha yuga gata nischala bhaktirastu. O my Lord, I have no attachment for religiosity or for accumulating wealth or for enjoying sense gratification. Let these come as they inevitably must. Okay, so in accordance with my past deeds, anyway they will come. But I do pray for this most cherished boon, birth after birth. Let me render unflinching devotional service unto your lotus feet, my Lord. So with this prayer, I want to thank the temple authorities for giving me an opportunity to meditate and to take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam as their costless mercy upon me. Thank you all very much, and please forgive me if I said or repeated something wrong. And if there are any discussions or any sharings you would like to make, the platform is open. Hare Krishna. I know there are amazing devotees with a lot of realizations. So thank you all so much for this beautiful Sunday sharing of Srimad Bhagavatam. Even though it's online, it's always very purifying. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki
jai. Mataji, wonderful explanations.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Grace HemangaGopi Mataji ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Yeah.